welcome back to my channel. My name is Chantel, but you can call me Shanti. And today I'm going to be sharing with you some makeup tips that I've learned that I feel have improved the way that I do my makeup, and I thought that you guys might be able to use them too. So let's get started. So the first step is to prime your face. Today I'm going to be using the Maybelline Master Prime. What I've noticed that primer does for my makeup is it helps it last a little bit longer throughout the day. And also, when I'm wearing a mask, it prevents transfer. It doesn't completely stop it, but I do notice that when I wear a primer versus when I don't wear a primer, and I put a mask on when I'm wearing makeup, I do notice that less transfers onto the mask. But even when not in a mask situation, it just helps it last a little bit longer, whether you're in the hot sun or just wearing it for a really long time. Now for my foundation, I'll be using the Tarte Amazonian Clay. And a tip that I've learned with foundation is that it's best to start it in the center of your face and then work outwards, because you might not need to use as much on the outer edges, whereas you're more likely to have to use more in the center anyways. Not everyone's the same, but most people do find that hormonal redness and acne does tend to focus in on the center of your face. Again, not everyone, but most people. So it's good to start from the center, cover up the areas that are the most red or have the most blemishes that you'd like to cover, and then work your way outwards. That way you won't necessarily have to use as much. Our next step is concealer, and I'll be using the Dose of Colors Meet Your Hue. One tip that I've picked up is that if you have dark circles underneath your eye that you want to cover up, then a concealer with a bit of a red tone to it can really help kind of counteract that instead of using a color corrector. So let's zoom you in so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so as you can see, I have a little bit of blue tone in and around here and here, just some dark circles that have formed from a lack of sleep, and I also have deep set eyes, so I'm more prone to circles like that. And a concealer with a bit of a red tone will help correct that. So the other piece of advice that I've learned is to use only a little bit of concealer instead of doing like that full triangle that you see some influencers do. So what I like to do is I put a dot in the corner here, I'll put a little bit less here, and then I'll put a little bit more in the corner here because there's more in the center here that I want to cover up. Then with my finger, I'll just pat that out in place and start moving it towards the center of my eye. Then same thing with this other dot that I made. Bring it towards the center, and I'm also going to take it up and along the ridge of my nose towards my eyebrow. Jazz just had to make himself known. So as you can see, some of that blue tone has started to disappear. You can see on this side, it's definitely like a lot more apparent, but on the side that I've applied the red toned concealer, it's made it disappear a little bit better. Now, if I wanted more coverage, I could go in with another layer of concealer, but I'm happy with this amount. So I just wrapped up the other eye and I did my eyebrows too. I don't really have any tricks with eyebrows yet because I'm still fairly new to the eyebrow game. But something that is not new to me is eyeshadow primer, and today I'll be using the Elizabeth Mott Thank Me Later eyeshadow primer. Much like the face primer, the eyeshadow primer just helps with the longevity of my eyeshadow, but also it prevents transfer, because what it really does is it blocks oils from building up and causing the makeup to slide around or causing your mascara to transfer onto your eyelid. Now, another trick with my concealer that I forgot to mention was not baking. Now, when I first started my channel, I thought baking was necessary for the longevity of your makeup, and I also thought it would help prevent creasing, and it can do that if it's used in the right quantities. I was overusing product. I was putting on too much concealer and I was putting on too much baking powder, and it would just end up looking like crepey, and my face felt stiff and like there was just way too much product on it. Next, I'm going to be talking about eyeshadow, and for that I'm going to be using the Natasha Denona Peak palette. There's a lot I could say about eyeshadow, but the biggest trick that has helped me is to start with less and build up until I have the desired effect. So as opposed to going in with a large amount and then blending it out, I prefer to use little bits at a time, and I'll just keep adding more eyeshadow until I have the pigment that I want. Now, this isn't always the case. Sometimes I do kind of want like a big pop of color, and to get more color payoff, it does help to use more. But especially when I'm doing an everyday look, I do like to stick to the less is more mindset. For mascara today, I'm going to be using the Maybelline Falsies Lash Lift Mascara. And a trick that I like to use with mascara is I'll put a little bit on the tips first, and then I'll go in afterwards and start right at the bottom wiggling and then flicking up. The wiggle just creates a little volume, and the flick up helps with your length. The other thing that you guys should do is teach yourself to use your mascara wand with both hands. Trust me, it makes it so much easier to get them looking more symmetrical. And then you're not like craning yourself and putting your hand in an awkward position to try and apply your mascara. Now for blush and bronzer, I'm going to be using my favorite blush bronzer duo, the Wander Beauty Trip for Two. Starting with my bronzer, Tullum. One trick that I've learned with bronzer is you want to apply it like you would use a contour. What I used to do was put it all over my face, which was really good for adding warmth. And there's nothing wrong with using it that way. But when you use it as if it's a contour, it shapes your face without having to contour it. So I'll even take it up along my forehead, because I like my forehead to appear like it's just a little bit shorter. And for myself personally, I like to go underneath my chin and along my jawline. Now, everyone has a different face shape, so wherever you place your bronzer is going to be different, but just using it as a contour is a good rule of thumb to go with to add more definition to your face without actually contouring. Blush, on the other hand, I used to carry it right down to just below my eyes, which looked pretty, but I never really liked how it made my cheeks look. So one tip that I picked up was to keep the blush farther back on my face, so I don't really let it cross the outer corner of my eye. That's about as close as I'll get to the center of my face, but for the most part, I keep it towards the back, and I'll bring it up a little bit closer to the inner corner of my eye. Next, for highlighter, I'm going to be using the Smashbox Spotlight palette. This one's gold, and I'll be using the highlighter from it. Now, a trick that I've learned with highlighter is to just kind of look where the light naturally falls on your face as you move around. I find that it falls right in here and sort of on an angle away from there down this way. So I like to place it starting right in that inner corner by my eye and then bringing it down slightly, but not all the way, and I don't pull it all the way back either. Then I find that I have a lot of shine in the center of my forehead as it is, so instead of focusing my highlight on the center of my forehead, I now just place it just above the outer corner of my eyeshadow, just to give a little bit of glow on my forehead without adding too much onto what's already there. And then I like to put a little bit just on the bridge of my nose, because again, the tip of my nose is already kind of shiny. It kind of already has its own highlight. So if I just put a little bit on the bridge of my nose, it just kind of helps smooth it out a little bit and gives it kind of like a contoured look without even contouring it. So that is just some tips that I've picked up that I feel like have changed the way that I do makeup. I'm sure I've mentioned most of these tips in a few of my videos, but this is just all the tips in one place together. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you have any makeup tips that have really changed the way that you do makeup, comment them down below. I'd love to hear them and maybe even try them for myself. As always, if you like my video, if you like my vibe, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Take it easy.